because the pioneer coordinator was, of course, chosen by President Muhammadu Buhari. So maybe we can make excuses and say, they are the new kids on the block. They've not been around for too long. They've not had enough time to have an impact. If they have enough time, maybe you might have, a different set of opinions on the agency. Don't you think, Mr. Ife?
Yeah, let me tell you something, Sam, and we can check this out. So this agency has similarities with the NSCDC and even the Federal Road Safety Corps. It was officially established in 2021, but it has existed before then, but albeit not a government agency.
Oh.
If I recall correctly, yes, there had been other heads of this body. At the time, it was more like a non-governmental organization. But in terms of recognition, you know how the civil defense came to be. It was also a non-governmental organization that over time was now given leave to operate by the government and then made an official government agency. The same thing with the Federal Road Safety Corps. So yes, maybe officially they have recognition. With regard to being part of the ECOWAS protocol, all well and good. But does that stipulate, for instance, that it needs to exist at that level? If it does, what are the terms of reference for the agency? And how do the terms of reference of this particular agency touch on those of other agencies that we have in the country? What is the responsibility of the police, for instance? What is the responsibility of the DSS? If you say it's the clearing house for information and intelligence with regards to proliferation or prevalence of small arms and light weapons, or preponderance of the like, if you like, well and good. But at what level should it exist? Because if you want to ask probing minds, they would say, can this agency function without men of the police force and the DSS? I believe it will be a huge no. Because you will need them.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they are still the full soldiers you are going to use. In terms of hardcore, credible, timely and actionable intelligence, you need the DSS. You also need the police because you also have the intelligence wing. And even other agencies, even the NDLEA would have to play a role because there's this thing about crime, drugs, and illegal arms. Yeah. They go hand in hand. You understand?
Yeah.
So if they are going to coordinate efforts with regards to these agencies, well, we may not have much of a problem with their existence, but we must, as a nation or a country struggling to be a nation, try the most we can to do away from having this multiplicity of agencies. Every now and again, there's one agency, and yet we're talking about reducing the cost of governance. We're talking about reducing the cost of the public service. The more commissions and agencies that we have, the more committees we have, the more we fritter away, and we end up having so many people tackling the same issue, and then nobody tackles it because agency A will say the other agency is handling, agency B will say the other agency is handling. See what's even happening in Delta, the Okwama incident. And people are now asking, should it have been the army on that mission? Should it have been the police on that mission? So if it's in view of the ECOWAS protocol that we signed up for, well and good. I have not been exposed to that particular ECOWAS treaty that we entered that now compelled us, in the manner of speaking, to do this. But if that's what we are doing, fine. But as a country and as a government, we must define the terms of reference and see if we have other agencies already covering this. Why not set up this agency under such agencies?
Okay, well, Mr. Wanago,
that could be the way.
We have a break coming up. Apparently, yes. This happens to be an intelligence agency, just another one. After the break, I'm guessing we will have to talk about how to handle small arms and light weapons. Please stay with us. Of our moments. I'm Sam Oracle Chinedu. We've been talking about the president appoints a new coordinator for the Center for Control of Small Arms. And he is DIG Johnson Kokumo, retired. He's the new coordinator of the NCCSALW. That will take some time to get used to. Under the Office of the National Security Advisor, Kokumo succeeds Major General A.M. Diko, who former President Muhammadu Buhari appointed as the Pioneer Coordinator on May 3rd, 2021. My guest is Mr. Efe Wanogo. He's on the phone, and I've been speaking with him about how this is going to help improve the security situation. Mr. Wanogo, are you there?
Yes, I'm with you, sir.
All right, you're welcome back. So you have established a multiplicity of agencies, tackling the same problem. But let's focus on what problem is it, how much access do people have to it, and what do we need to do to ensure that we are in a better place?
Okay, I think it is indeed a huge problem because most of the crime that we have in the country are firearm related. Most of these weapons are light weapons. To that extent, it is a big problem. Even armed robberies, smuggling of people, intercourt rivalry, campus clashes, gangsters and what have you, even communal clashes, they depend largely on these light weapons that are illegally acquired and are held against the provision of the law. So it's a menace, quite all right. Why it is prevailing, to tackle it, we would have to find out why do we have a preponderance of these weapons.
Okay.
So I think it is because there is a lack of a concerted effort to address the menace of these light weapons. First and foremost, these weapons continue to come in. We have cases where there are a few places in Nigeria where some of these weapons are put together, like what you hear about the Oka-made rifles and what have you. In fact, about 2 weeks ago, it is rife in social media where the military uncovered somewhere in the southeast a family where one of the sons of the family was making light weapons, and the parents were aware. And he admitted that he was renting out these weapons to people who use them for operations, and then they bring back to him and they give him some money. So you have places like that in Nigeria, apart from those that come into the country via the illegal routes. The smugglers bring them. In fact, not too long ago, I think was it the Tinkan port, a container was found with pump action rifles, which of course is not one of those weapons that is supposed to be freely available to everybody without license. So the mere fact that, for me, my position would be that you would have to first and foremost stop the continuous entry into the Nigerian territorial space of such weapons.
Okay. Or
reduce to the barest minimum. You tackle that, then you also stop those places where you think it is being produced in Nigeria.
Okay.
The intelligence is there. There's a saying that there is a treasure trove of intelligence in the country. The intelligence agencies and the police know these areas. They are hotspots, they are flashpoints. It is for them to raid these areas and do a mopping up of these weapons. But one problem I think we've had over time is this lack of direction, a sense of direction, a sense of purpose, and then committed officers of the different agencies who would not go and shortchange their own agency in terms of being corrupt. You take money from a criminal, you release the criminal goes ahead to do more. You have had cases where even 7 policemen have been caught for collaborating with criminals. So this is one thing you have to do. So it is multifaceted. It is not a silver bullet kind of scenario. You have to, at the same time, while you are stopping these weapons from coming in, you have to, at the same time, empower these agencies to ensure that the men and women of the agencies are fully aligned to the goal of mopping up these weapons so that they themselves do not become co-travelers. We've seen on social media videos where even soldiers in the theater of war smuggle arms and ammunition out to go and sell to terrorists and so-called bandits. We've seen that. So these things would have to be trashed at the different agency levels because there are returns. Arms and ammunition are not things that you just use freely without being accountable. When the different agencies we have in the country, via their national head offices, national headquarters, and then the NSA office, there are returns that are done on the number of arms and ammunition, the variety that each agency has across the states of the country, across the divisions, if it's the police, down to the national level. The figures are there. But more often than not, the returns do not add up because these weapons are scuttled, the arms, the ammunitions are stolen, and then they excuse them under different operations that were not even existent. So it takes a multifaceted approach, and it takes somebody with feet on the ground to ensure that this is done. And I believe there's no less a person. The commander-in-chief has appointed somebody. If it's a menace and he sees it as a menace, I think at the level of his National Security Council meeting, he can give them the marching orders. If any weapon is found, for instance, with anybody, and we see that weapon is from either the Nigerian Army or the police or the DSS, heads would have to roll. There has to be consequence management.
Yeah.
So if you do this and you do all at the same time, it's not a case of doing one and leaving the other. It's not a case of saying you are mopping up arms and then you still allow the borders to be porous for more arms to come in. So you have the customs at the borders, the Nigerian borders, at the ports. What is the role of the customs there? We've seen videos where all manner of things are uncovered. There have been many cases where the customs have been very active. They've done well. They've busted these scenarios. But there have been cases of complicity.
Yeah. Because
the only times we see these things in the news, it is when they are caught. What about the several times that they were not caught? The kind of weapons we've seen our soldiers, they have made references to the so-called superior firepower of bandits and terrorists. How did they get these weapons? Some of those weapons were stolen from the armories of different state agencies. So for me, it's not an easy thing to do, really. It is a difficult thing to do, but with the political will and the backing of the commander-in-chief, he can then hold the different heads of agencies, the service chiefs, to account.
Yeah.
That should this continue, let's face it, there's another thing. How do you mine intelligence? We continue to catch criminals now and again. Some of them are awaiting trials. Some of them are already in prison. There are things you can do. You can enter plea bargain with those that you have caught. That look, your freedom is dependent, is directly proportional to your cooperation with us with regards to your source of weapons.
Yeah.
And if you assist us, instead of us to give you X number of years, we can lighten your body. We can lighten the number of years you have to serve. And we can go and do a plea bargain for you. And then you now work for the state, even as an informant. So there are different ways. It's not just a single silver bullet kind of scenario. For me, what I think is lacking is this singularity of purpose. That has been lacking. It appears like we are chasing so many things at the same time and are not following through on any of them. So I think the president would need people who are willing to go through. If you hold a state director of security responsible, for instance, why is it that a particular part of your state has continued to have a preponderance of crime, and yet there has been no intelligence from your agency? If you ask an area commander, why is it that you are in a particular part of this state, you are the area commander here, and there is crime here day in and day out, you've not been able to fish out the people who perpetrate this crime? What are you doing in office? If you charge them from criminal negligence or complicity, if there is consequence management across board, Sam, this is not rocket science. Even rocket science is no longer in the realm of the esoteric sciences. It is something that is very doable now. So for me, the political will is key because the president has the power to hire and fire. And if the service chiefs know that they will be brought to limelight in bad light, in manner of speaking, because they will not expose them for not doing what they should do, they will step up because they know somebody is holding them to account.
Yeah.
But if a DPO knows that he can tolerate, he can look the other way where crime happens. If that checkpoint knows that they can get away with that extortion and then allow weapons to pass through because they have not done their due diligence, that's why they are there in the first instance. This arm still pass. Somebody gives you 100 naira and it goes through with his arms. If they know that somebody is going to hold them liable because the intelligence that you are going to get at the back end will trace you back that, okay, this person passed through this particular part of Port Harcourt, this particular part of the border between River State, and then he came in with the arms. And you find out which checkpoints were existent on that lane on that day. And you hold them to account. When we begin to do this, Sam, it is not rocket science. We are going to see results.
Okay.
But so long as we continue to look the other way, we continue to excuse it, and we continue to attribute everything to God hand the day and such kind of commentary, we will not make any headway.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wanogo, for your time. You have said many questions with all of us. We truly appreciate the wonderful data. Right. I have a few minutes on clock. That's time for you to be Eddie Johnson as the new coordinator of the National for the role of smart license under the office of the Security Advisor. For those who have been having conversations with Wanogo, who is a security expert. What are your thoughts on this? 017923 0002 0817923000. Guess about the multiplicity of agencies, teams, and of course how we read the country of modern light webs and improve city. Christian says it's for big heavy for me. That's serious. But else on agree with you. How security agencies are rated now. It's harmful with numerous agencies, nothing's really working in terms of criminal elements. Insecurity and the small proliferation is largely caused by porous and mostly with corrupt government agencies, personnel tasked to police it. Over time, it's a great threat to nation stability and development. Only when the love of money is curtailed or citizens and genuine pit the nation. Few calls have just unit on the clock. 08793 017 003. WhatsApp is 0090306 I believe we're live on Facebook and Twitter at Nigeria InfoPH, so you can watch as you listen, and of course drop your comments on those platforms. And one of the many things, of course, the main thing which was highlighted by my guest is about how many agencies. I think as a Nigerian, it's difficult to know the agencies we have. And just like this hits the news, when a new coordinator, a director general, chairman, whatever the head is called, is appointed, that's when we now hear, oh, so we have this agency overseeing this. And this conversation cuts across a lot. Beyond the security aspect, there's also the cutting cost of governance. Because you have to pay the DG or the chairman or the coordinator. And that coordinator will have an assistant who would also be paid salaries. And they might have, SAs, PAs, people who will be with them. I'm on the website of the NCCSALW, and I'm trying to see, their heads, people who make up this agency. And the thing is, I would have to do a whole lot more reading about this agency beyond now. Obviously, to get some more and to know if we already have agencies that can handle these issues. All right. Okay, 0817-923-0002. I have just 5 minutes on the clock. 0817-923-0003. On WhatsApp is 080-903-06416. What is your take on the appointment of a coordinator for the control of small arms and light weapons agency? And I want to ask why, but a lot of the whys will not even come back with answers. Because it's either we already know, we've heard, or you and I are not in the best position to answer those questions. I graduated from UNIZIK, and as you can tell, UNIZIK is in Awka, Nnamdi Azikiwe University. And this Awka made, guns. It's quite popular. We've heard about Awka made. It's been around for some time. Of course, schooling in Awka, you get to hear more about it. But I remember thinking why that has never been completely tackled. How is it that we know where this is produced as regards, of course, the city? Maybe you don't know the hideout. But if a place is famous for something, then at some point, a nation that is serious about tackling that problem would have had some raids, Some intelligence will bring about solving that particular problem. But hey, I guess we are a work in progress, as I like to call my nation. So let's hope. I hate to end on a note of hope, but that's all we have. Let us hope. But once again, we have people in positions that will deliver. And you and I can be proud of the Nigeria we get. and we can feel safer. And like they say, sleep with our 2 eyes closed. I'll leave you with Jody, who is claiming that she has lost her mind. I love the song, not necessarily the lyrics, but it works perfectly. Stay with me.